Bonnie, are we ready to go?
We are ready.
Fantastic. If people on the committee, actually, if people could turn on their cameras. Great. So Bonnie, Terry is on vacation this week, so Bonnie has agreed to fill in for her. And Bonnie, if you could open this up with your usual announcements and the roll call.
Absolutely. This meeting is being conducted virtually, so I will do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Trustees Robbins and Knox will not be participating in today's meeting. Ms. Gray.
Yes.
Mr. Santos?
Here.
Mr. Sanchez?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Kehoe? Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Bernstein?
Here.
Mr. Pryor?
Here.
Great. Staff participating in the meeting include CEO Santos Kryman, Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, AEOs JJ Popowich and Laura Guglielmo, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice. Staff and managers participating today include Jessica Rivas, Margot McCabe, James Beasley, and Roberta Van Nortrick. Consultants include John Tarataglia from Risk Connect and Joe O'Neill from Castilian Solutions. Trustees, please use the Zoom chat option to be placed in the queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute your mics until you are ready to speak, and we may proceed with the agenda.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. And Mr. Harris, continuing your day of power moves. Mr. Knox is not here, so you will be a voting member today, not an alternate.
Thank you. I'll try not to let it go to my head.
You can get your monologue prepared again. We are on to item 1, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 7th.
I'll move.
I will second. Bonnie, would you please take a roll call on the minutes?
Yes, Mr. Santos?
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Chair Bernstein?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
I made my mark on the ook.
Simmer down, sir. I'm not aware of any public comment. Bonnie, have you received any last minute requests?
We have not received any requests.
Thank you. We are on to section 3 reports. The first is an operations briefing from Mr. Lugo, Mr. Popovich, and Ms. Guglielmo.
Good afternoon, Chair Bernstein and trustees. We'll keep it pretty brief. I know it's been a long day for all of you. We just have a couple of member-focused initiatives that we want to provide a brief update on with JJ Popowich and also Tamara Caldwell. So if we can start with JJ and then Tamara.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, again. So we're continuing to make enhancements to improve the member experience for members who are calling into the member service center, or excuse me, member service call center and retiree healthcare call centers. We're pleased to announce that we have launched our wait time announcement and callback service. We launched that on Friday, September 30th. The callback service is designed to offer members calling us at our busiest times an opportunity to request a callback later the same day, in most cases, rather than remain on hold waiting for a specialist. As shared in previous meetings, this is not a hold your place in line callback feature, but it does allow them to step away from being held online and get a callback. Members now hear an estimated wait time and a place in queue announcement once they enter in the queue. And then beginning from 10 a.m. through 3 p.m., members are also provided that option to elect to remain on hold for a specialist or the callback. That option is played when they first enter the queue, and then if they elect to remain on hold, it's played throughout the whole time on a periodic basis. Members electing a callback confirm their callback number, and then they're scheduled for a callback. Specialists assigned to the callback queue begin handling the callbacks on a first come, first served basis. We will give them more than one try to reach them if we're not able to reach them on the first try. Due to staffing constraints, we've limited the number of callbacks scheduled to 50 for member services and 25 for retiree healthcare at any one time. So basically, the system will not offer a callback if we have 50 callbacks for member services already queued up. But as soon as that 50th call is answered, we'll begin offering it again. And so it's a rolling 50 offer, and the same thing for retiree healthcare, except at a lower number because of their staffing ratio. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll be assessing the experience, tweaking the parameters, which includes tweaking some of the messages that members hear, the special assignment priorities, and other factors that will allow us to hopefully find the optimal balance to make this work as efficiently as we possibly can. We're monitoring the performance and the feedback that we receive from members. During the assessment period, we may see members report an experience different than they expected. So we're using that feedback to help guide us in our assessments and adjustments that we make. Initial indications are the service has held some positive impacts on the overall wait time in the main queue, but due to the staffing limitations, our callback delivery time may not be as fast as we would like to deliver, and that should change as we add more folks into the call center from the graduating class. Before I move on, this effort, anytime you make a major change like this, it's a huge effort, and I just would like if the committee will allow me to recognize a few people that put in a lot of work to get this done in a short period of time. So from systems, Cookie Jaramillo, Philip Ting, and Eduardo Asensio, they put in a lot of hours and dedicated their time to get this up and running. And I'd also like to thank the MS and RHC management teams, Alan Cochran, Kelly Puga, Gerald Bacayo, Valerie Quirez, Renee Copeland, Cassandra Smith, Leilani Ignacio, Keisha Moon, and Letha Williams for their contributions to the project. And then this is a special thanks because we had a group of folks who were user acceptance testing the changes that we were making before we went live. And these folks put in some very long hours after their shift. In some cases, some of these folks were there after their shift almost to 12:30 in the morning, testing this out before we went live. And so they deserve special recognition for doing that. They volunteered to do it, and we couldn't have done this without them. So Lily Lynn, Christopher Carlin, Na Van, Esther Lopez, John McKee, Pelin Oxaxu, Mandy Lowe, Abraham Reyes, Kenneth Rios, Sophia Class, Christian Pirette, Likiani Nix, Randy Enriquez, and Winoa Myers. Some of these folks are veteran members. Many of these folks are new folks that have recently joined us in our 2 core benefits training classes. These are just a really great example of our dedicated staff. So that's also a short opportunity for me to congratulate the first core benefit training class who's graduated, and they're now getting familiar with the call center operations, and they'll be moving on the phones within the next few weeks. The team is now shifting focus to implementing our new opt-in survey for members served in both call centers, so they'll be able to get some metrics on how their experience is going. And then we should have that launched in a couple of weeks. And this will also allow us to gauge members' perspective on the changes that we've made. And then after that, or actually simultaneously that, we've already started working on automated member validation process and voice authentication process. This will allow us to validate members before they speak to an agent, and also they'll have an opportunity to elect to have a voice authentication set up, so it'll shorten their validation time and improve their experience coming in later. And it's also a security enhancement, is your voice ID is very much like a fingerprint. So all of these things that we're working on, these things we expect to move them forward pretty quickly in the next month or so. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Help if I were unmuted. JJ, thank you for that report. Does anyone have it? Santos, I see your hand up.
Yes, JJ, can you just kind of give us a brief update on the LACERA queue that we put in a few months back?
Absolutely.
Very,
So
very,
go ahead. Sorry, Mr. Graham.
very quickly.
Very quickly. It's still in play. It's doing great. We're offloading about 73 calls to that queue. The wait time for that queue is very quick. Members seem to love it. Obviously, they would. They're getting their assistance really quickly to get them onto the LACERA. It has helped address some of the callback the call wait time. So it's a successful operation, and we'll continue to keep it going.
Ms. Gray, hello.
Hi, I have a programming question, I guess, for Mr. Popowich. With respect to LACERA, and we do those estimates, is there any way we can program it so that we don't have to reach out to a benefit specialist for option 4 if you have more than one beneficiary?
We do have it's a very good question, Ms. Gray, and we do have a project in the pipeline to do that. So I've been talking to Kathy Delano and her team about how do we get that reprogrammed to support the multiple beneficiaries more efficiently, as well as we're also looking at it if we can to try and figure out if we can also support maybe dissolutions for option 4. Dissolutions are divorces. They're a special calculation challenge in some cases. So we're looking at that, but that is a project that's in the pipeline. I don't have an ETA on that yet because we're still in the discussion phases and trying to figure out where we can fit that in and how do we get that done.
It just seems like it would be save a lot of time and give members the option to get their information immediately so that they're not calling in or making appointments. It's just, there it is. That's what's going to happen. Just like you can apply now to retire online. You know, it's great. It's a good tool.
I agree.
Agreed, Ms. Gray. Thank you very much. Do I have any other questions or comments for JJ?
And then just, sorry, Chair Bernstein.
I'm sorry for, yes, go on.
And then just a brief update with Ms. Caldwell on the online disability application.
Good afternoon, Chair Bernstein, trustees. I'm just going to give you a brief update on the online application. I'm happy to announce since the launch on September 8th, we've had a total of 24 applications started online. I actually checked today and we have 2 applicants that successfully completed their application online and will be accepting that and moving forward with the process. We have about 9 where I can see activity and members are responding to the questions and uploading their documents. And we have a group that looks like it's low activity. So we're going to actually reach out to those members to find out whether or not they need assistance with completing the application or uploading documents. And we are going to continue to monitor the activity as well as solicit information from members about their experience so we can continue to make improvements on the online application in anticipation for the official launch. And I'll stand for questions.
I think that was a very thorough overview, and thank you for the update and congratulations on the progress and the utilization.
Thank you.
Anything else, Louis?
No, that'll be it. Thank you, Chair
Okay.
Bernstein.
And sorry for calling you JJ. I do recognize the difference between the two of you, but I'm getting older and I think it'll become more common. Anyway, we are now on to something that I am absolutely excited about. Sincerely, Ms. Rivas, would you tell us about the e-filing solution for the Form 700?
Yes, good morning. Let me pull up my slides. 1 second. All right, so we are very excited to be here. I am Jessica Rivas, staff counsel. I'm presenting with Margot McCabe, legal analyst. We're of course in the legal services division, and I believe our chief counsel is here as well, Steve Rice. And again, we're super excited to share this news for you. We are exploring an e-filing solution for the Form 700 process. It's one that's going to help out both filers with filing their annual notices, and also when they come on board and when they leave, and also legal services, which oversees that process. So to start, I wanted to give you a little bit of background and context. So the California Political Reform Act is enforced by the Fair Political Practices Commission, or FPPC, and the act prohibits public officials, employees, and in some instances contractors from doing work with public entities from participating in decisions in which they have a financial interest. And so it applies to contractors where they influence governmental decisions in which they have a financial interest. To avoid these situations, it requires public officials, employees, and some contractors to disclose their economic interests, which is exactly what the Form 700 is. It's a statement of economic interests. As I mentioned, there's the annual one, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. You may remember when you joined or became a trustee, you filed an assuming office one, and when you leave, you will file a leaving office one as well. Currently, most of our filers, and there's about 228, most of our filers file with LACERA or stay in-house with us. That includes our consultants and financial managers. Some file with the county, and that's primarily our trustees. About 26 file with the county. And so again, about 228 total. Most of them file with LACERA, several with the county. I'm going to hand it off to Margot McCabe to discuss some of the challenges of our current setup, which again is a very manual process without some sort of e-filing software.
Hello, thank you for having us. Currently, our biggest challenge is everything from sending notices to the record keeping are done manually. For filers, this means that each filer has to manually fill in their PDF or print it out and fill it by hand. They send them to us via email or US Postal Service or interoffice mail. So there's a lot of logistics to keeping track of those forms. Another issue is that for filers with more complex things to report, who may have multiple schedule pages, they cannot migrate their data from previous years to the new form. The only way to do that is if they've saved their form from last year. So for some people who have a lot of things to disclose, this can be a very long and tedious process for them. And there's no automatic review for any missing data. So if they miss something, we provide a checklist, but if they miss something on the form, they don't necessarily see it. So a lot of times we have to send them back to be corrected or in some cases amended. For legal services, this means that we manually send emails to all filers. So for employees, we send notices by groups for their disclosure categories. For consultants and financial managers, however, we send an email to each person. So it takes approximately 2 to 3 days to send all the emails to everyone. When we get the forms back, we mail them, we manually track them on Excel spreadsheets or Word tables. They get updated frequently throughout the year. We date the tables as we're doing them for version control so that we create new copies all the time until we close them out, the logs out at the end of the year. We also keep a lot of notes in there about certain situations that may arise that we have to follow up on. All of the forms, let me see, where am I at? We have to manually pull the forms that need to be audited. So we just kind of randomly grab forms and look at them. And then based on those forms, we may send out requests for amendment. Of course, anybody whose form does not pass facial review, we also ask for their forms to be amended, and all late filers' forms are audited as well. So it's extremely manual and it's very, very time consuming.
Great. Thank you so much, Margot. Yeah, as you can imagine, with about 200 filers in-house, it's a lot of emails, a lot of PDFs flying back and forth and keeping track of. It's a lot. So it's a heavy lift every year. The different e-filing solutions we're looking at address all of those concerns. So they automatically generate the emails or the notices to filers. They provide instructions both from the FPPC instructions, so substantively what should be going on their forms, but also instructions on how to use the software, which are pretty intuitive. I mean, if you're on your email and accessing the internet, you shouldn't have a problem with it. They automatically check with errors and omissions. As Margot mentioned, it's so easy if you're filling this out by hand or just a PDF to skip a box or to skip a text field. And this will alert you that like, hey, you can't move on until you fill that in. It automates the audit process. We have to audit a certain percentage of the filings, and so it will automatically pull those so that we can put our human eyes on them and audit them. For filers, the biggest thing is that saves your information year over year. So again, whether you have a lot of info or not, you can just log back into your account, see what you filed before, make any adjustments and move on. It should be a much more streamlined process for our filers. These solutions are used by hundreds of other public agencies throughout the state. The cost range for the vendors that we've been looking at are roughly $5,000 to $7,000 a year. One of the vendors requires a 3-year contract, while the other vendor says they can guarantee their rate for 5 years, and all their contracts include 30-day out clauses for any reason. This would come out of systems budget, and it would be part of their mid-year budget adjustments. And then, of course, I want to highlight that we have been working closely with the County Executive Office of the Board of Supervisors, their Conflict and Interest Lobbyist Division. They're on board with us moving forward, and we want to make sure they're apprised, and we're working hand in hand with them on this transition. So the two vendors that we're looking at are NetFile and Granicus, and we came across these by speaking with the county, our counterparts at the county, also talking to our outside counsel for FEPC matters. They've highlighted these as the leaders in the state for Form 700 e-filing solutions. NetFile is used by 247 public agencies in the state. Granicus is used by around 200 for their Form 700 service. They provide other services as well. In terms of next steps, we will decide on a vendor. We will contract. We will go through the onboarding process, which will be a lot of work with Margot and I, kind of uploading our data about our filers, so that once that data is in the system, it then becomes pretty automatic, all the notices and whatnot. There will be training, of course, for legal services, Margot and I, to make sure we know how to administer the software and oversee the program, and systems as well, because this is a tech program that will be applied within LACERA, so they will be working hand in hand with us and working with the vendor. And then we do want to provide training for filers, especially the first time. It is a new system. It is pretty self-explanatory. We don't anticipate anyone having too much trouble with it, but just to provide some context and overview, and for something brand new. And our goal is to be up and running for the 2023 annual filing period, which is next year, next March through March 1st through April 1st. We feel our goal is to have everyone. As I mentioned, there's the folks who currently file with LACERA, and then the folks who currently file with the county. In order to bring the folks who file with the county over to filing in-house with LACERA on our new e-filing solution, it will require an amendment to our conflict of interest code, which we're currently working on. And against the county has expressed support, but that needs to be it's a process to get those changes finalized and ultimately approved by the Board of Supervisors. So it's just a matter of timing of if that will be done in time for the next filing period. But we're going to do our best to get everyone on board before that. So with that, and I do want to also take a moment to thank Systems. They've been a huge help. Of course, Margot and I know the legal side and all the day-to-day administration of it, but they've been huge with dealing with the tech side and talking to these vendors and making sure everything is squared away and makes sense for us. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I'm looking to see if there are any hands up. And Santos, go ahead.
I just have one question. The information that you already have, does this system allow it to migrate over as opposed to having to go back to square one and all of the trustees having to start over and input all the information? I just want to make sure that we let the trustees know if that's
yeah, just to get clarification, we migrate from where to where, to make sure I'm following.
Right now, we have 700 forms that have been filed by our trustees and myself, for example. So the new system, we have to start from scratch and literally manually input everything into the new system, or is there a possibility to migrate whatever we have into this?
So you're currently filing with the county. So what you have in the county migrated over, that, no, it's my understanding we would need to start from scratch. Once the first year in this new system, let's be starting from scratch. And it's been a while. I filed with the county at my last job with county council. I thought their system didn't save information year to year, or perhaps they changed that. But either way, if you're filing with whatever our vendor is, that'll be your first year, and then moving forward, it will have everything saved.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Sanchez?
So considering how much staff time is required now, I mean, we can say that this is essentially paying for itself.
Yeah, I mean, I maybe Margot has a better sense. I joined LACERA in May, and so I got involved in this year's audit process. But you know, as Margot said, you said it takes days, literally days, just to send out all the emails. So yeah, we haven't run the math, but I think it's probably fair to say that's accurate.
Yeah, I would assume that it would probably cut my time down in half.
Oh, at least, yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
And did I understand it correctly? The anticipated price is under $10,000 a year?
Per year, correct.
Okay. I mean, for people who have mutual funds, it's not a big deal. But for those of us who instead of having mutual funds, have individual stocks, just the time for data entry adds up if you put a modest value on it to being far more than that. This is very good news. Thank you very much, Jess and Marco.
Great. I'm glad to hear everyone's excited about it. We're excited too. So we'll keep everyone posted.
A process question. You're going to select a vendor and it's a pretty small dollar amount. Does it have to come back to us for approval, or does staff have authorization to put it into effect?
It's my understanding that staff can move forward, but you know, I'll defer to anyone who wants to confirm that.
Yeah, this is within CEO's authority.
Great. And to be clear, my desire is not to complicate it by bringing it back. It's to make sure that we don't have to factor in that part of the timeline for getting it in place for this coming year.
Right.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you. This is really good. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Margot. We are on to item C on reports, business continuity tabletop exercise results. And James Beasley is going to be reporting on that.
All right, good afternoon. Give me 1 second, pull up the screen. All right, you guys see the screen? The PowerPoint?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Burstein and members of the committee. I am James Beasley with Administrative Services, and today joining me to conduct this presentation is JT Targalia with Risk Connect, formerly known as Castellan Solutions. We are here to provide an overview of the results of the latest business continuity tabletop exercise. Since the redesign of the business continuity program, LACERA has conducted 3 tabletop exercises. The first one was to evaluate LACERA's incident response team, also known as LERT. The second one was to assess the 4 critical divisions that are involved with the member payroll recovery efforts. And for our most recent exercise, we wanted to test the division's business continuity plans and their recovery teams. JT and his partner, Joe O'Neill, developed a realistic scenario to challenge each division's recovery team. JT will now discuss the exercise objectives, scope, results, summary, and observations from the exercise. And then we will conclude with any questions that you may have. JT?
Thank you, James. Mr. Chairman and committee members, I appreciate you inviting me to present today. James, if you can just go to the next slide, please. So the objectives of the exercise that we set up was we needed to ensure that all of the department recovery, business recovery team members understood what their roles and what their responsibilities would be at the time of a major incident or disaster. And we also needed for them to be able to understand what the current management response capabilities at LACERA are and what their business unit recovery capabilities are. We wanted to make sure that if there were gaps in their plans or their strategies, we would identify them. It was also an opportunity to educate and train the team members and how they can best use their business continuity plans, which we call their BCPs, and to make sure that it was in compliance with continuity best practices. One of the most important things for them to understand is the action plan is never written before the incident. The action plan is used to work on the foundation of the scenario. The business continuity plan is used as a resource document because the scenario will dictate differences that require different actions at the time of. So we wanted to identify what improvements needed to be made in the business continuity plans or the strategies, and if there are any business continuity program processes that need to be amended. James? So the scenario we developed, which was a very realistic scenario, especially for LACERA in Los Angeles, was a very severe earthquake. And it was designed specifically to challenge the accessibility to LACERA's facility, your ability to communicate both electronically and with your team membership and with your stakeholders, and for those critical business systems. Availability and reliability of power sources, cell phone coverage, Wi-Fi, internet access, we ensured were compromised as part of the scenario. Then is the listing there. We actually did 15 separate department tabletop exercises with each of the divisions that you see listed here. Thank you, James. We also provided an after action report. So after each tabletop was facilitated, we captured all of the after actions, those things that either identified gaps, things that needed to be done, changes that need to be made, strategies that need to be addressed. And the scores for each of the exercise were exceptional. There was 8 divisions that were in the 90s, 6 divisions that were in the 80s, and 1 division that were in the 70s. So they all had a pass, and some of them were excellent. The after action reports, there was an average of between 3 and 8 per division, per department. And that came to a total of 93 after action items, which is exactly what we wanted to achieve from these tabletop exercises. This was not a black eye if you had an after action. It was actually a good progression and a good thing to happen when you're doing tabletops. There was a consistency of key observations across all of the divisions. One was we needed to identify alternate communication methods, because when we started to take away, as part of the injects, the ability for divisions to communicate with systems or with their stakeholders, we realized that Wi-Fi and cell phones could be compromised. So what else could we use? So we came up with some options for that. One of the other things that was quite consistent was the plans that come out of the assurance software, the business continuity plans, have a lot of data, a lot of good data. But there's also a disabler in that some of these plans can be quite big, 60, 70, 80, 100 pages long. And that can be a disabler because if it's too big, people won't use them. So what we are doing is we are also developing a second output of the plan, which we call a grab and go, which is very concise and deals with the people, places, and things. So this is the type of plan that you'd keep on your cell phone in a PDF format so that you know what to do in the first 24 hours and that data is available to you. And the third key observation that was consistent across the plans was if the LACERA building was compromised and people could not work from home due to that business process requirements, what were the alternate recovery site opportunities? And these needed to be identified and documented ahead of time. So these were the key action items that came out of the 93. Thank you, James. So summary and observations. I've been in the industry for about 30 years, and I've worked with all different types of organizations, large, small, medium, in the government sector, in the Fortune 500, etc. And what I noticed, having worked with LACERA since probably 2018, was a significant improvement in the overall preparedness and resilience capabilities since you started to develop your program. The big jump that I've seen is in the information technology resilience. You have now implemented some very robust and consistent DR strategies for your critical systems. You've reduced the reliance on your headquarters building for processing and for staffing. A lot of that came out of the consequences of COVID. A lot of people had to work from home. So that was a positive from the COVID situation. You have a capability of a lot of your staff being able to work from home, which is good. However, there are still concerns about communications with a scenario such as we tested. What I also noticed is that continuity and risk management are becoming a cornerstone of your LACERA culture. And that is really what you want to try and achieve. If continuity and risk management is recognized by your senior and executive management, and they're committed to that vision, your organization is going to be stronger and more resilient, and your stakeholders are going to benefit. And that there is now a continuity management life cycle adoption. What that means is business continuity is not a project. It's not a start and finish. This goes on with your business in a life cycle. You plan, you implement strategies, you test, you find out gaps, you replan, and you do a cycle. And you should be on an annual event. And as a best practice, LACERA is committed to continuing to conduct these routine tabletop exercises, because that's where you understand just how resilient you are, but it also provides you with this excellent training opportunity with your key employees so that they know and they have the confidence that they can recover in a worst case scenario. Yeah. So I'd be more than willing to answer any questions that any of the members may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. Are there any questions or comments? It was a good overview. I think it covered everything people wanted to hear. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we are done with reports. We are on to item 4, items for staff review. Bonnie, do we have any?
We don't have anything to report.
Thank you. Item 5 is items for future agendas. Does anyone wish to offer up one? Okay, we're on to item 6, good of the order. It is 1 o'clock, slightly after, and I'm sure no one will mind if I just say, if you'd like to make a good of the order, please feel free to jump in and offer it up. Otherwise, we'll move on. I just want to thank staff for all of the excellent reports and say how excited I am to have an e-filing system for Form 700s. If no one else has anything to say, I will be happy to entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good one, everyone.
Good day, everybody.